the screen.
Oh yeah.
Bit of foreground interest.
We're not very good at doing intros, by the way. So we'll just go straight into it. I was trying to remember how many years ago it is since we met and the context of how we met.
It was 2017.
Yeah, in a park.
With dogs.
With dogs, yeah. I think that added context is quite helpful, actually. Yeah, we know each other from Chorlton Beach Road.
Beach Road Park.
Yeah, when we first got our dog Alfie. We didn't know anyone in Chorlton anyway. I was talking to you about this recently. I was saying the only way to like meet people as an adult is either
Dog meetups.
Like have a dog.
Yeah.
If you've not got kids, it's dogs.
If you've not got kids or you've not got like any major hobbies.
Yeah.
Like if it's not, and if you work for yourself and you've not got a local pub. Yeah. And I think we'd probably be chatting to each other for about a year or two until we realised that we both worked in similar industries.
Yeah, probably. It's probably 3 months before we even knew each other's names.
Yeah.
In that way that every dog owner is just like, oh,
you know your dog's.
There's Alfie's dad.
Yeah. Literally that.
Yeah. Until you finally can go, okay, I should ask you your name now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was years ago, right? So back then, how long had you been? So I should give some context. So how would you describe yourself? Animator, motion graphic artist?
Animator, I guess.
Animator,
yeah. I just use those two terms interchangeably. So many people get hung up on whether they just do motion design. Or, But there is a bit of a difference, you know.
Yeah, but you've got quite a unique career, I suppose, of how you got to that point, right?
Yeah.
Because you didn't study as an animator, right?
No. So I went to uni and did physiotherapy. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. Totally different. That was 2005 I finished and couldn't get a job. But yeah, I did that for 15 months to 2 years, 18 months to 2 years before I really got dispirited. I'd moved home, I was living with my parents. My younger brother had then gone to uni.
Right, yeah.
So then you've got that feeling of, oh God.
Yeah.
I'm the sad sack at home and the younger brother's having a better time. And at the time, the only other thing I was interested in was the media or journalism or TV, anything like that. So I moved to London, quit. I'd been working in warehouses and doing like non-graduate level work at a hospital in Leicester at the time.
Okay.
Gave all that up, moved to London and got a job as a runner at a TV company.
Right.
So I was just in the kit room. They were called World's End Productions. I don't actually know if they still exist.
Right.
They might do. They used to produce radio shows as well.
Oh, okay.
But they had a spin-off website called VideoJug, but they were effectively trying to be a video Wikipedia. Okay. This was like kind of only a year after YouTube had launched.
Oh wow.
So video was still like...
in its infancy, really.
Really, yeah. So it's gone under now, I think, but basically they're really early stuff. They did loads of recipes and makeup videos.
Oh, no way.
But if you watch back now, the recipe videos are so painful. They would do like a...
So they were really long recipe videos, like really
they would
drawn
start
out.
like a you will need, and then they would literally read out and show a shot of a spatula, a mixing bowl, a 29-inch baking tin.
See, I think these are quite well
flour.
nowadays, like kind of ironically.
I mean, like the recipe, like the initial bit would be 3 minutes.
Before
you've even got to them doing step one. So yeah, I was working for them, getting cameras ready, going on shoots, helping out, and only really was working as a runner there for about 5 months. And then a junior researcher job there came up and they just moved me into that position.
Right.
Started working on kind of getting the scripts together, booking people.
Okay, so still all live action stuff.
All live action. And it was then that you'd then get to sit in on some of the edits that you'd have been working on. Mm-hmm. Started to look at people working away on Final Cut and like the look of it. Started to have a play around in spare time. Started to then edit the videos I was organising. So started to get a feel for all the software. And then it just spiraled from there because I was like, okay, how do I add name straps? Oh, these ones in what was it called, Caption or whatever the Final Cut thing was called at the time?
Well, the equivalent of After Effects.
Ish, yeah. Like it was a compositing.
Yeah.
But then started using After Effects because I realised, well, that makes things look nicer.
Yeah, sure.
And that was just kind of, okay, this is what I kind of want to do. This was probably 2 years into doing all of this.
Right, okay, got you.
I was then, this is kind of far more what's excited me, sort of thing.
Got you.
So yeah, using After Effects like that, starting to use Cinema 4D, and basically just learning off the people that I was working around. And studio that I moved on to next, that was purely a animation studio.
Got you. So then how long was it from there before you went freelance then?
I didn't go freelance until we moved to Manchester in 2017.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I'd been doing freelance on the side for a couple of years.
Yeah.
From about 2014, 15.
Yeah.
And I'd been building up clients that way, with the goal being, in the end, I'd like to sack the day job off.
Right, okay, yeah.
But yeah, it was only the move to Manchester that, to be honest, it was partly a financial thing, because renting and living in London, couldn't take the gamble at the time of just going for it. I didn't have the confidence to do it.
So moving forward a few years then, so how has that changed with, you've gone from being a freelancer to now setting up a limited company? Actually, I call it Maggel, Magnificent Jelly.
Magnificent Jelly. Maggel was just a shortening that made it easier than having to type out Magnificent Jelly every time.
Yeah.
It came from seeing a label on a packet of like oldie worldy sweets that I was given one Christmas. And it just had this catchphrase on it of, look at these magnificent jellies.
Right.
In this kind of, ye olde sweet shop style.
Right.
And I don't know why, but me and my wife at the time just laughed at it and kept on just always saying, look at these magnificent jellies. And just that stuck in my head. And like 7 years later, when I was going to set up as a limited, and I was like doing some like branding work with a brand director.
Yeah.
And I was talking about animation and movement, and we talked about like using the whole like nice moves. And of course, the whole idea of Magnificent Jelly and jelly moving, kind of pleasing way of like seeing jelly wobble. And I just thought, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go for something like that and use Magnificent Jelly.
So what was the theory behind going from, because I suppose we've had a similar, yours being an animation, but mine being in more like live action or video production, I guess. But what was your decision? What was the process that made you decide, I'm not going to freelance anymore? I want to be part of something bigger? Or
I think it was a case of approaching 40 and panicking about where am I going to be in another 10 years, and thinking about things in terms of, well, do I want to just be still just little old me doing what I can get together and what I can do myself? Do I want to build something a little bigger? I'm still not obsessive about the idea. I don't need to feel like I've got to employ lots of people and get stuff in, but I wanted to move away from trying to cover all bases and things that I'm less comfortable with. So for instance, I can take a project from start to finish. I will pull other people in with better skills to do that now, in a way that in the past I'd have muddled through it myself and tried to like script it, design it, animate it.
So what's an example of stuff that you tried to outsource to other people, and what's the stuff that you like still doing and you want to keep in house?
Well, that's like the whole point with Maggel was to try to work more with agencies and designers that were going to come to me with stuff that needed to be made to move. I openly will say I don't have the imagination to like design something completely from scratch. Don't enjoy it, find it incredibly stressful. But I love looking at other people's work, whether that could even be just a poster that you see on, and you walking can around town, and just like daydreaming and thinking, how would you want to see if that was going to move, or where would you see the movement in something? So I would much rather work with someone who can design something brilliantly, and I can animate it confidently, that I can make things move nicely and look good. But then again, the other end of that in the past I'd then be trying to add sound design myself. I'm like, no, just get an audio engineer who knows exactly what they're doing. And that's the thing that I thought was going to be an easier pivot with going to a studio. I mean, there's definitely people out there that are confident and want to do that side of it as well. And they will do that, and they'll do it brilliantly. Like there's plenty of people I could name in Manchester that are fantastic, like character animators. And they'll design the characters. I can't design a character. If I try and design a character, it will look like a child's creative. It's that sort of like, I just can't, I'm just missing that part of being able to conceptualize certain things.
Conceptualize, that's it. But when was the last time you picked up a camera and shot something?
It's got to be
since
over
being
10
in Manchester?
Years. Well over 10 years.
Yeah.
I think last time I shot, agency I was working at before I moved to like The Guardian, one of our retained clients was Nationwide. And I remember going on a Nationwide shoot and just manning the second camera because
right.
I was basically in charge of it and directing.
Yeah, right, okay.
We needed a second camera shot.
Right,
so
okay, yeah.
That was probably the last time. I don't know how much of my footage made it into the edit. Probably very little.
You shot some stuff for us within the last few years, like behind the scenes stuff.
Oh yeah, ages ago. I think the last thing I shot was pre-Jess. And Jess has been here only like 6 months after me.
Yeah.
So I did like a few bits and bobs just to be
behind the scenes stuff. Like we've done.
Yeah.
We've used your stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's no other option. I was the only one shooting BTS. It was like, well, this is what we have. Yeah, I shot like we did a podcast / grill shoot for Weber Barbecues.
Oh yeah.
I shot the BTS
yeah.
for that, and then I shot the BTS for Chopsticks. As
Yeah,
well.
yeah. You seem to be pretty plugged into going to creative meetups and events. And how do you say, I mean, I suppose you used to work in London, albeit for a company, but how do you think Manchester fares in terms of its kind of creative scene, and how has it changed since you've been here, do you reckon?
Yeah. So the big difference is, although it's a big city, it feels a lot easier to know lots of people all in various design areas, rather than it always just being like a silo of animators that I know, or just it's far easier for that sort of like cross-pollination to happen, I think, even though it's still a big city. Yeah. Like London, I used to go to lots of like animation kind of talks and meetups, but again, the nature of the city, people would be living all over the place. They'd come together for that thing, and then you'd never see them again until maybe 2 months later when they might be at the next one.
Sure.
Whereas when I first moved up here, because we'd been planning the move for about a year before we moved, I'd been like looking into who was up here, who was doing what, followed like people like Flo, Carl at Flo. He'd been set up for a while. Just chatting to him, saying we were coming up. He met me for a pint when we first got here. Helped me like meet a few other people. And before the pandemic, there was quite a lot of good design socials. There weren't always animation socials, but things like Craft and Glug and Pecha. So I used to try and attend as many of those, partly because I didn't know anyone. We'd only been up here. We moved here without knowing more than one or two other people. And really, it wasn't even about trying to find work, because nearly all of those events was more peers and other animators or illustrators or
which you're not going
branding agencies
work with directly.
No, exactly. But it was more just a way of meeting new people, seeing what was going on, and then really on a basic level being inspired. Sure. Seeing stuff that I'd come away from it and be like, oh, that was pretty inspirational. It always worked at that. When you're in a bit of a down period of work, or you're thinking, you know, you're always questioning, oh God, am I doing the right thing? Sure. And then you'd see something at one of these events and be like, oh yeah,
that's good.
It's a good thing. The good thing about Manchester is people are very open to like collaborating, sharing. I've picked up work from other animators that have then, if they've been offered a job that they can't do, they'll recommend me, or they'll recommend others.
Great.
Rather than it being like kind of gatekeepery and protecty, which can happen with a lot of industries.
That's
it does feel like that side of things.
Especially in London.
Well, I was going to say, I wonder if that's
like,
a direct comparison from London.
I really need the work because I live in London, therefore I can't afford, even if I'm busy, to give out those contact details. Which is an awful way to be, but it's kind of a protectionist mentality.
Totally understand the insecurity of it, especially when money's scarcer. I mean, our rent before we left London was nearly £2,000 a month for a 1-bed mouldy flat in Hackney. And that's 9 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
So like you couldn't afford not to.
Of course.
Because you've always got that fear of, if I pass it to someone else and they do a better job, or their rate's more competitive, why would they then ever get in touch with me again?
It's so interesting that you made that observation, because I would say I made a similar observation when I moved from Edinburgh, but the exact opposite way around.
Oh, you found it harder here?
So small. There's like, the population is like, I can't remember what it is, 500,000 or something like that. It's really, really small. It's like less, it's the same population as the whole of Iceland, which is crazy. But like it's so small and everybody knows each other. And I think because of that weird, like kind of village feel, I think people really do collaborate a lot with each other. And maybe it's because they don't want to, dick over their neighbor in some ways, for want of a better phrase. Like they definitely don't. There's no like backbiting, like it's the opposite of dog eat dog. Everybody kind of, my experience was that the freelancers all just share work around, and there was never any chance that you were gonna nick a client or get a client nicked off you and stuff. And so when I came to Manchester, that's a lot bigger. The community is really lovely, but I definitely felt it was a bit more guarded. But that's interesting that you say it's almost the opposite coming
I
from
found
London.
it the opposite.
Then I spoke to people that have gone to London. They'd be like, "Oh, yeah, Manchester's like lovely. It's a lovely place to, it's a paradise in terms of like passing work around and collaboration." And
the thing is, the first time you do it yourself, you're thinking, "Oh God, what have I done?" Because it wasn't natural to think of like,
sure.
But it's come back the other way. So like, I don't. I mean, a lot of those events and meetings with other animators for me has also been a case of, well, if it's something I couldn't do, like I know that this person here is a brilliant character animator, so I'll be getting in touch with them if I have a client that wants that and see if they'll come on board to work on it.
What about doing a sharp left turn into another topic? AI. That was very partridge. I'm not going to do that again.
Monkey tennis?
How does it affect your day-to-day at all? Is it all just hot air? Is it just a tool that we're going to use? Is it going to take over our jobs? Is it Skynet?
I mean, at the minute, it's not having any effect on my job.
At all, do you reckon?
Me personally.
Do you use it?
So me personally, I haven't noticed it as a problem yet.
Yep.
As in, I've just had the best 2 years back-to-back kind of thing of the last like 9 years.
Nice.
And it hasn't, like a couple of years ago when the first like Mid-Journey videos were all coming out and all this generative AI stuff, it was like people going, that's it, we're done for, it's all over. And,
especially on LinkedIn, everybody catastrophizing.
It was like late
everything.
2023 when that video of a drone flying through blossom in Japan, and it was like, look how good it is. And you're like, but look at that bit there. That's shit. And that glitch there, and the woman's got 7 fingers.
Also, how do you integrate any kind of brand identity into this? Or fine-tune it? And
again, like, it's fine to show like 2 polar bears wrestling in the snow and go, look at this. It's like, it's 4 seconds. And what good is that to anyone? Like, what's that showing unless it's for Fox's Glacier Mints? Like, I don't really know what. So personally, I haven't had it hasn't affected like workload yet. I do understand the fears about it, and I was toying with how negative to be, knowing we'd discuss this, because there's lots of people that are leaping into it that are very like pro it and try and paint anyone that's remotely skeptical as like effectively a Luddite or against progress.
Sure.
Which I'm not, and I do understand the benefits of it.
Yeah.
For instance, I don't know if this is definitely possible yet. Am I right in video editing things like it can, so you've got 7 cuts of the same 7 takes. Via, I don't know if it's in Premiere already, but it will find those clips via their audio waves, bin them up for you, ready to like process, rather than you having to laboriously go through every brush to find your in and out.
I'm not sure if that's out yet, but I think
that sort of
is it Adobe Firefly? I think that's what they're working on.
So that side of it, I understand. That's improving the process for a human to still create something.
I mean, on a very basic level, like just a few years, like imagine nowadays trying to subtitle by hand. And it's just part of the course now that like it auto generate. Okay, you need to do some tweaking. Some stuff, but like it
is better than it was.
I
mean, I still type out SRTs for clients if they need them for if they want really accurate, decent. Like, I mean, quite a lot of the clients I've had have also had issues where they don't want the auto caption. That's they might want it in a branded font, or they might want it burnt into the video. So you've got to kind of
surely is that for a voiceover? Then?
Yeah,
but surely your voiceover is already written.
Yeah, but you've still then if you're putting it into a certain like proprietary player, then they might need the SRT.
Got you. Yeah.
Fair.
But anyway, so I guess that what you're talking about, that ability to like pre-organize your B-roll and your takes.
One example of what I've used it for once, and it wasn't for a visual generation. It was for an audio clip that a client came to me and said, we've got this video, we haven't got the old project files anymore, but we need to lift the voice from the music track.
Okay, yep.
What could you do? And I was like, well, that's not really my wheelhouse, but I'll look into it. And found like a audio AI thing that would allow you to put it in, it'll look at the waveform, it'll strip the 2 stems, and give it back to you as 2 separate stems of the music, and the polished up fairly well for what was needed. It was just for an online testimonial. And for that, I was like, you know what? Ethically, this makes sense. I'm I can't imagine I've ever met a sound designer that would have enjoyed a sound engineer that would have been like, oh yeah, no, that's taking my work away. I'd love to spend like the rest of today splitting music from voice for 40 seconds.
Especially if you've got no access to the original files. If it's just burned into a mix and you have to spend like hours on the central channel extractor.
Yeah,
and then
no one's
swapping
enjoying that.
That's no fun for anyone.
So for that, I can see the point of it.
Yeah.
But what I really detest is this whole like complete disregard for copyright.
Yes, which
And
is what this
where-
whole recent thing with music artists is all about, right?
Like music,
using it
visual,
to train
anyone. Like I don't know if you've looked at
AI.
I don't know what platform your website's on, but like with Squarespace, which is what my one uses as a platform, you have to actively go in there and opt out from scrapers taking stuff off your site. And like this whole, the legislation that's going to come up in the end.
Yeah.
Currently, the government framework wants to have everybody have to opt out.
Yeah, sure.
So by default, these massive companies can just take everything.
Yeah.
And like the analogy of being like, that's like a shopkeeper saying, no, you've got to pay for this. Like, you know, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like this disregard for the copyright is no good for anyone that's created anything.
Yeah, sure.
Especially when if you ask OpenAI, if you type in like, can I have the source code for the OpenAI, like you get a response back saying this is the proprietary code.
Oh, really? Right. Okay.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
I mean, anything creative, you always take inspiration from other things. So like if you were pitching for a job, you might show them work that other people have done.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
And say, oh, it could look like this. And like, if I do that, I won't be claiming that's my work. I'll say, oh, this studio, I've done this.
Yeah. But there's being inspired by something and there's just ripping it without credit.
Yeah,
it's a completely different thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Say another production company were like, oh, we've got this pitch for a whiskey company, and they look at all your videos, they feed it into an AI, train their own little AI model on it using Coolbox videos they've ripped off your site of all the ones you've done for Tamdu and other distilleries. Show it to a client, get the work. Like, is that fair? That your stuff's been able to be easily just scraped like that?
No, it's not. But that's aside from that. I feel like that. I completely agree with all that, and I feel like that's assuming that we are still going to keep using it. And okay, let's assume. Hopefully, there is some legislation that comes into play that you have to opt in, opt out. You know, and it becomes a bit more, let's say, managed. How do you think? I'm sure we're all going to end up using it still, right? In some manner of speaking. I think 5 years time, it's got to be integrated in some way. Even if hopefully we're not just using it. I mean, I'm not one of these people who thinks it's going to replace it. Like you're not going to, in 5 years time, you're not going to be out of a job as an animator because of, but I think we'd be silly to assume that there weren't tools that we were using on a daily basis that is going to I think like what you talked about before, that massively just speeds up boring processes that
I mean that's surely what we all want it for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it is for that side of things. I think whilst I might not be at threat or you might not be at threat, I still think for people that are, it's still worth having the argument and the fight. Like I got a friend who does set design and they're already seeing an impact because you can generate a nice, say you wanted to put a nice bottle of water instead of needing to shoot it. You can quite easily these days set up a kind of decent studio. I think again with all of these things, like the initial fear the other year of it just literally overnight going to transform everything is, I mean, even if you just look into the background of the power that's needed for these things, like even 5 years from now, there's still there's a lot of things that need to be lined up for it to keep on like evolving at the pace it's evolving because of the power needed even to run the data
100%.
farms.
So
I think there is a self-limiting factor to it in the short term, and hopefully that gives everyone enough time to like catch up with legislation.
I mean, that was the scary thing, wasn't it? It seemed like it came out of nowhere. Obviously it didn't, like people working on it for years and years and years, but like it kind of came out of nowhere and seemed to be, like if I talk to my mum and dad, they'll know what I mean by AI. And it just kind of felt like it was completely unregulated, and I think that's what really frightened creatives, that it was like, what, like I can't even keep up with this, like what is going on, whereas I feel like maybe we're all just a bit more informed about it now.
I still think we're a long way from the rise of the machines.
Sure.
But more protections are needed for definite. I think there's a lot of paranoia and fear, which is understandable, about what it means for workforces.
Yeah, sure.
And that's fair enough. And it is a bit of a shame that in creative industries, why do you want to take away the fun,
the fun bit,
part of it?
Yeah,
Get rid of the boring stuff.
That's exactly my point. Yeah. Like, you don't want to get rid of the,
still do the
generating
thing that
part, like
makes it
the art.
creative.
Like, you don't. Why would you want to take that? Like, it's completely bastardizing what the point of it is, right?
Exactly.
But like,
it's also removing the part that, like, part of actually doing it is enjoyable. Like, it's not just the end product when you make something. Like, it's what you do to get there that's enjoyable. And if you're just gonna splam some awful kind of generative video in there and be like, great.
A few weeks ago I was on holiday and there was a souvenir shop, and about 50% of all of the like magnets, pin badges, stuff, souvenirs that were like made in Finland, all AI generated.
Oh, no, really?
They just typed in reindeer and wolf together, and it'll be like the same art style where they're kind of like, they almost turn into like a shield. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
Where it'll be like an animal's head and it'll crest into a shield. There's so many of those, and they'll be like, a product of Finland. And I'm like, I guess so. But I could bring my MacBook to Finland, type that in and generate it. Is that then a product of Finland? It's very strange.